I'm Chris Burns, and welcome to The Network, where we connect into a matrix of newsmakers to get to the heart of an issue. And watch out, they've got to answer in 25 seconds or less, or else. Let's take a look at that issue right now.
Scotland, Catalonia, Flanders. Among a number of European regions with yearnings for autonomy, if not outright independence. The financial crisis has compounded the tensions with national governments, especially among regions that are net contributors to their national budgets. They want their tax money back. Meanwhile, Belgian ex-Prime Minister Guy Verhofstadt has co-authored a book with Daniel Cohn-Bendit urging an EU federalism that would weaken the nation state. To critics, it's already happening, as the crisis leads to increasing EU authority over budgets and banking, undermining national sovereignty. Is it time for a real Europe of regions, under a more powerful EU roof? Could this solve those separatist yearnings? Or could it lead to chaos, as more regions demand increasing autonomy?
Now, wired into this edition of The Network is, from here at the European Parliament in Brussels, Christian Wenning, General Secretary of the Union of European Federalists, founded shortly after World War II. It believes in unity, in diversity that could overcome Europe's divisions. From Tenerife, Marc Guerrero y Tarragó, in charge of international relations for the nationalist party Democratic Convergence of Catalonia. He's also vice president of the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe, or ALDE. And from London, Soni Kapoor, managing director of the economic think tank Redefine, who sees identity politics as a way to leverage a better deal for national government with national governments, but warns outright independence could spell economic and political disaster. Welcome to all of you, and there's a question for all of you, starting with Christian. Could separatist movements cause a balkanization of Europe just at a time the EU has won the Nobel Peace Prize for 6 decades of peace? Christian.
Well, Chris, I think the word says it already. It's happening in Balkan, so there is no blueprint for independence. I think what we have here is a Europeanization that is needed now for a European federation.
All right, Mark, what do you think? Do you fear a balkanization? But you or your movement would actually like to see independence for Catalonia, right?
Yeah, I don't see at all balkanization. We live in a democratic territory in Europe in the 21st century, but we have a great challenge in Europe, that is giving voice and role to the different actors that we have in this unity and diversity.
Okay, let's go to Soni. And let me add also that the Spanish MEP Alejo Vidal-Quadras has been suggesting mobilizing the Guardia Civil if Catalonia holds an independence referendum. Doesn't that raise worry that there could be a balkanization there?
Well, I think that what is very encouraging is, and this is the success of the EU and why it got the Nobel Peace Prize, that all the conflicts that are happening are being fought with words, not with guns, as has happened previously on several occasions. Not yet, and that is very important. I think that will continue. I think that some of the talk about the potential outbreak of civil war, about the Guardia Civil being called out, etc., is posturing. And I do hope we've moved beyond that point where economic conflict needs to be resolved with guns. And in fact, I'm fairly confident, but the threat remains.
Okay, let me go back to Christian now. Could independence lead to a breakup of the EU if Spain, for instance, vetoes EU membership for an independent Catalonia?
Well, there could also be a chaos, as suggested by some others, but I don't think there will be a superstate, nor will there be a chaos or a breaking up of the Union. I think after the crisis we'll all be seeing a stronger Europe, and the question that we have now is how to solve it. And I think all the independent movements would agree that the challenge now is to overcome the European crisis on a European level.
Okay, well, Marc, let me pitch that to you, though. Look, there is talk about that if you leave Spain will slam the door at you in trying to get into the EU.
Well, this is their position that we consider that is not really a democratic one, as you mentioned with Vidal-Quadras. This is not really a democratic argument. We consider that there is no example in Europe of secession inside, and there is no article that says that Catalonia will be not an independent new state in Europe in case that Catalans want it to be.
Okay, Sony, what about a loose federation? Is that the answer? A loose federation within Europe? Could a Europe of regions make the nation-state obsolete? But could that lead countries like the UK to pull out?
Being part of the European Union has made the economics of secession actually easier and more attractive. So in that sense, one could already think that we do have a kind of federation of regions,
right,
but with both regions and member states jostling with each other for resources and negotiation.
Okay, let's pitch this over to Christian, because you would like to see a federation of Europe. Isn't that going to cause a whole lot of problems? Isn't this a Pandora's box?
Well, it has been a Pandora's box if you look at the past, and we should try to solve it since 60 years now. And I think that if you have a Senate, that does not mean that there is a chaos in a parliament. We need a strong leadership. We need the people to elect their leaders, and that by the European Parliament, and that should elect a president of the European Union.
Okay, and let's go to Marc now. Catalonia has elections in November that could strengthen the supporters of independence, including your people, your party. Why would Catalonia be better off outside of Spain? Give me 25 seconds. What do you think?
Well, two reasons. Economic drain. We have a unique economic drain in the world, fiscal drain of 16 million euros a year that we cannot suffer anymore, and especially with this economic crisis. And the second, political respect. Catalonia wants to have a political respect, cultural respect inside their own state. And nowadays, our state, that is Spain, is not giving this to us.
All right, so you want your money back. What about this? What about the Scottish? Sony, let me ask you, because you're over there in Great Britain. They're headed for a referendum on independence in 2014. Are they right to break away and keep all their oil money and perhaps adopt the euro? What do you think?
As someone in Germany put this to me, if the Catalans are not ready to pay for the rest of Spain, to share risks with the rest of Spain, why should German taxpayers? And I think the logic of that is really very strong, that if you consider the secessionism to spread, we are going to end up with a complete disaster.
Okay, right. And the same thing, back to you, Christian, again. This looks like a Pandora's box. And then let me add something. What about national debts? How do you sort out national debts? Doesn't that make independence impossible?
No, I think first let me talk about the independence. I mean, people can make their choice. This is not the Soviet Union. You can come in, you can come out. But solidarity has to be applied. The regions to the nation.
And that's what we're not seeing. These guys, these different regions want their money back. That's not solidarity, is it?
Well, money back, as you can see, they receive money for the moment.
All right, Marc, what do you think? You want your money back. That's not solidarity, is it?
No, but we pay a lot of solidarity, and the fiscal drain in Catalonia is 11%. In federal systems like Landers in Germany, it's not more than 4% by law, and we're paying much more than this in solidarity.
Okay, let me end with a final question. Could a federal Europe with a Europe of regions undermine national identity? Would we wind up with a European Union speaking English as a superstate and a lot of little regions with dying languages? Sony.
If things go well, some of those national identity issues are going to come back, but in a very peaceful way. If things break up, those will come back again, but in a way that is potentially full of conflict.
So you put a lot of if in there. And Christian, what do you think there? Could this spell disaster?
Well, let's look at the reality without ifs. At the moment, I come from a nation that has the majority of those speaking one language, which is German. The language to talk in Europe is English, and in the institutions here, we talk a lot of French. So I think that's a good start to keep diversity in unity.
Marc, you got the last word. What do you think? Could we see this trend toward an EU superstate speaking English, and Catalonian really would become a dying language if you get independence?
Well, we just follow the leitmotif, unity in diversity. And we just have to have a strong leadership in Europe at superstate level, and then to respect national identities and different cultures that we have this great diversity in Europe. And this is also powerful for us.
Thanks, Marc. Thanks to all of you. I'd like to thank our guests, Christian Wenning, Marc Guerrero y Tarragó, and Sony Kapoor. I'm Chris Burns. And until next time, thanks for connecting with The Network.